I would say this would be a short video, but you know we don't do that here. Um, so yeah, PSA emergency, as in public service announcement, or emergency public service announcement. This video is going to be a little bit in the middle of things that I'm trying to get put together, but I was actually kind of surprised and not surprised how big, for me, how big the one video blew up in regards to the idea of doing a class action lawsuit against PSA. I'll try and be the one to start it, like actually get the legal formalities put out, but one, we're gonna need whoever is the one who did that lenticular deoxys. There's way more weight to the case. Also, all of your guys' comments really show that at least you feel as though you've been wronged. Look, if you can send me your hard evidence, that helps. Because there were some comments that were valid. And, we're staring at a blank sheet because I'm going to use it. So that was the other thing. A lot of people commented on that video and one other video who don't seem to understand I'm not just some person who just kind of got into this. I've been doing this for years, and that's only just including me doing the videos. My high attention and analytics to the hobby has been for years. So yeah, a lot of things were said by people who clearly are new, not just to me, but to the hobby in general. So yeah, one of the things, and this was probably the most controversial thing that was hard to navigate, at least just in comments, is one person said they're not going to submit to PSA, they're going to submit to their local hometown grader, and it was one of the ones that just, it wasn't PSA, CGC, BGS, or tag. So that's what the paper's for. I got two pieces of paper. I've got two black Sharpies. I wish I knew where my colored Sharpies were, but you get black Sharpies just in case one runs out. And so stick with me. So I had commented back to that person, that's fantastic if whatever you're getting graded, you mean to keep PC. Because again, they weren't using one of the big four. So they were talking about FCG, whatever, FGC, some other small thing. And I think a lot of small grading companies, businesses, really should call them businesses, because they're usually just one-man shows, a lot of small grading businesses do a fantastic job presenting the cards. There's some that have to where the part up top is the label up top is unique to the element of the Pokemon, and it has a little design on it. By all means, use whoever you want to grade, but the way I commented back was really recommend you use one of the top four if you really mean to retain or at least have the ability to liquidate in the future. And that person was really stuck on that I even mentioned PSA because my video was about all of the corruption and terrible things PSA has done over the last 6 years. Oh my goodness, this all started in 2020, or at least where the cases have been back to back. And I don't want to use PSA. Let me be clear with that. I don't want to. I still, from a liquidity standpoint, for anyone, I would say you could and should possibly still consider PSA. However, here are all the things that have come along with PSA lately. Be careful how you traverse this minefield. And the other part, so the person, hopefully they're watching this video, I just wanted to be clear, I'm still not really suggesting PSA, but it's hard to recommend CGC in terms of retaining value, because if you have a card that isn't in great shape and it's not going to get a CGC 10 CGC black label, you're almost better off just keeping the card raw, unless again you want that for your PC, and maybe eventually CGC will have a turnaround. It's kind of strange that it hasn't. I understand some reasons as to why it hasn't, but it is a little strange that we haven't seen that pick up quite yet. Now, Beckett's obviously a very concerning one, because supposedly, I don't know if it's finalized, but Beckett was being bought or has been bought by PSA, which kind of really ruins things, because it was kind of like, well, this card with PSA 10, I might as well BGS it and go for the black label, and even still, a BGS 10 is worth more than a PSA 10. And BGS slabs just look better, and there was a lot more reputation to it, and almost like honor and tradition, because Beckett was the original grader for Pokemon. PSA back in the day wanted nothing to do with Pokemon. PSA stands for Professional Sports Authenticator, and they wanted to strictly stick to sports, and eventually they said, hey, we'll do Pokemon too. You're all still probably wondering why the paper, since I haven't written anything down yet. We'll get to that. And then one other point to this video. I will do a video showing my evidence with my missing black dot Charizard, or really missing is incorrect, swapped out black dot Charizard with PSA. That's going to take me time. Again, if you're new, I don't know how to edit. And editing is going to help me clip things together, and I have to, really make things flow better from my computer. All of this, like 99% of my videos are shot from my iPhone. It's all raw data analytical stuff. Editing would make things smoother for y'all, but however, I just don't have the time. Some of it is just for me to be able to reflect back on, and some of it is just presenting you guys, my little freaking 5 viewers per video, great info to go forward and destroy the market like I have. That being said, another thing that was added to was by continuously buying or saying that PSA slabs maintain a value, we're therefore supporting PSA. And we want PSA to be ruined, and we want all of their slabs to go down in value. And that's where we have small brain mindset. And that's where it shows that you guys are new to collectibles. Because what's one of the main things that makes something valuable, especially in collectibles? Yep, I knew it. I have a crappy Sharpie. Scarcity. Let's see if we can get that to focus properly. I don't want y'all having to read blurry words. There we go. Scarcity. So, if all of a sudden, I'm going to switch to the other Sharpie, it better be in good condition. If all of a sudden, dang, focus, baby. There, come on. I don't want y'all to have to read blurry words the whole time. Okay. If all of a sudden PSA as a business went out of business, that means there is no more slabs from PSA, which means there's only the remaining amount of slabs in existence, which also means if you have, any 8, 9s, or 10s in PSA, it means also that population is locked. You can't get them. You can get them regraded into something else, CGC, Beckett, Tag, whoever still exists, but that means the population count for all the numbers of PSA in every category and card is locked if PSA goes out of business. So, PSA going out of business could mean that PSA slabs go up. Good news is PSA itself, the company, isn't seeing any of that money. PSA doesn't get money every time a PSA slab is sold. PSA only gets money, unless it's from their eBay thing that they set up, which is controversial in so many ways. Hold on, whiskey break. So, PSA doesn't get money if their slabs sell. They don't get money if their slabs go up in value. And PSA doesn't lose money if their slabs go down in value. So now, I do understand that whole second part term consequence that you're probably getting at, where you're saying by mentioning PSA slabs have liquidity and hold value, you're helping PSA. Yes, we're helping PSA in the general sense that you could still go with them and, you know, whatever a PSA 8 is worth today, it should still be worth a PSA 8 tomorrow. That doesn't mean we need to necessarily... Retaining value means it can literally stay put. Let's say there was a PSA 10. We'll use this as an example. As of today, shoot, I don't even know what it's I don't know the exact day right now, but it's March 2026. And let's say that PSA 10, whichever card it is, any card, pick one, is worth $500. If a year goes by and it's still $500, it did retain value. Now, of course, you know, keeping inflation in mind, you know, maybe not so much, but it didn't go up and it didn't go down. It just stayed lateral. It retained its value. Some companies, now, usually when you're dealing with 10s, everything retains its value. So we can use another example in a second. But what we want, and we don't have to focus on one, I think CGC and TAG and BGS can keep going up, but let's say just one did, and it was CGC, and, you know, it retained its value and more. It, you know, over a course of a year, it went to 750. But right now, a CGC tends to have this crazy spiral. You're not really on a 100% good trajectory where that's going to go, even if it's a CGC 10. And the other thing, even though CGC tried to capture it, in my opinion, and is still trying to capture it, CGCs, only 10s and 10 pluses really seem to have any weight right now. I'm hoping that will change. The issue, and this is what I refer to people, is not everyone has 10s. Even if you kept your cards in a binder for the life of them, they don't stay 10s in a binder. Now, if you did sleeve them right away and top load them right away, and they did come out with the pack perfect, and you did that, and you kept them in a controlled environment, they'll pretty much retain whatever the condition was. But, for example, a lot of cards have some, you know, nicks around the edges, some whitening, you know, maybe on all four corners, maybe on just one corner. And it might be, you know, something like a PSA 8. Now, same card, CGC 8. Heck, let's even use CGC 9, for example. A PSA 8 of whatever card might go for 75. A CGC 8 might go for 45 of the same card, and a CGC 9 might go for 65. That's what I mean by it will retain value. PSA from 1 through 9, now there is still, of course, a drastic drop-off, usually between 9 and 10, and sometimes between 8 and 9. But PSA right now does seem to retain value between 1 through 9. And here's probably the biggest favor you can do to yourself, guys. Because PSA 9 has been doing their whole, or because PSA has been doing their whole controversial thing to where they're labeling 10s as 9s on purpose, you might be best off going onto eBay or to shows and buying straight PSA 9 slabs, because they were supposed to be PSA 10s in the first place. And I mean, this not everyone accepts PSA's offer. I haven't any of PSA's offer when I did my grading criteria with them. They did come close on a few for a couple of my submissions while they've been doing that, but I never accepted any of their offers. I play the long game. I work the shows. I work the in-town stuff. I work the market. I'm a great negotiator. Not really, a rush on PSA's offer, typically even lower than what you would get if you just sold it on eBay yourself. So right now, because they're still doing it, they just got caught the one time, they're still doing it. They're labeling PSA 10s as 9s. People aren't accepting their offers. They're keeping the cards, and they're still taking them to shows or selling them on Facebook Marketplace or eBay themselves. So right now is a great time to buy PSA 9s that have been graded between 2026 and 2024 and going onward. Heck, it may have been going on longer than that, and we just never knew. But they had the most incentive when they started doing their whole buy and offer program. And so, because you could either crack it and send it to PSA and hope for a PSA 10, which this isn't what I recommend. You could send it to somebody else. CGC, Tag, maybe even BGS. This one is an asterisk because I did a video on them before they were bought by PSA. I have no idea how things have changed since then. And even in that video, after using BGS, there's only a couple of cases I would use BGS. Now, I don't know if my one video has been posted yet, and because now I'm out of sequence, and I do these videos usually kind of far out from each other. But in one video, I did kind of hint that there are probably some rare cases where I personally, even after what I have dealt with, might still submit to PSA. But those are very far and few in between cases. And the outliers is going to be me calling these other companies and finding out how they would grade such things. There are some cards that no matter who you use, the cards are just going to be an extremely low pop count. This is typically with error cards. And sometimes it doesn't matter who you use for the error card, as long as it labels the error on the label in the slab. But some cases, if PSA does actually already have the label error, that version would go for way more than the others. And it's, look, I don't get paid for these videos. I just don't. I would love to, but in order to keep doing these videos, I gotta make money. I have not sent any cards to the PSA since I have done my videos. My last thing was that giant 96 submission, but that was before my black dot got stolen. And I had to hold off on talking about it because, one, I already had a very heated exchange with them while they still had my 96 cards. But I definitely didn't want to be doing videos about it while they also still had my 96 cards because I didn't want them messing with my order or purposely ruining my grades. And it's a whole conundrum. Very few cases will you ever win with PSA. So, yes, PSA could go out of business. And some people seem fearful who have a lot of PSA slabs. I, for an individual, have a decent amount of PSA slabs. Right now, I currently have about 200 PSA slabs, maybe more. If PSA slabs tanked, that would suck for me and a lot of people, nearly everybody, which is also another reason why they probably won't tank. The only thing we have to do, oh, now this one's, that's why we have two. Again, the only thing we have to do is just not submit to PSA. It could be anyone. But what I was getting to in the point of my comment is I can't deny the fact that people are still paying for PSA slabs. They're still whiskey break. I'm not going to deny that. In fact, I'm not going to tell you to not go buy PSA slabs. I've already stated that. Go buy the PSA 9s. It's a good chance the card is perfect condition. I mean, literal good chance that current PSA 9s are actually PSA 10s, which means they're CGC 10s, Beckett 10s, and Tag 10s. I strongly recommend you go buy PSA 9s because they're a fraction of the price of 10s on anything. That's basically just leaving free money on the table by not going and just buying them already graded. And then to which they retain their value. And yeah, unfortunately, still no matter what, you do have to try and take a close look at the 9 through the slab. So, some 9s are 9s, some 9s are 8s. And in some rare cases, some 9s are 7s. Now, this would get the message across. My fear is PSA would run some dealer campaign that would get people to immediately start to loop back to them. Look, I don't even know if we have to really even do the lawsuit. The lawsuit would do some damage to PSA. It would hurt their reputation, and it would of course immediately take some money off the table from them and help recoup the people who have dealt with losses from PSA. But we don't even have to wait for that. We don't have to do that. We can simply just yeah, sure, you could hurt vendors. If everyone just stopped buying PSA slabs, then people would probably also stop submitting. But I don't know if we have to go that far. Because again, buying slabs that have already been graded doesn't hurt PSA. It can continue the cycle. It can, because people are like, oh, well, I'm selling these slabs. People are buying these slabs. I'm going to keep getting cards graded. But really, there's just two things. There's one thing you need to do, and it's just simply don't grade with PSA. I know some of you are saying, but you just said you'd probably send 1 or 2 card. Guys, that is 1 or 2 card through my thousands of cards versus the thousands of cards as an individual I was going to send to PSA because of my super rare circumstance with those cards. If I have to get this through y'all, I won't get those 1 to 2 cards graded with a PSA. But I also want everyone else to just flat out don't grade with PSA. We have all of our right reasons to boycott this company. And not even just as individuals. I'm asking vendors and card shows alike. Card shows have the right to deny entry to businesses. And I really think card shows need to just say PSA graders or PSA company, no entry. Because PSA, does take on-site submissions, and they do on-site sorts of grading and autograph certification and this or that, and they make money through that. And I mean, a lot of times the reason why the reason why card shows, have them go is 1, PSA will pay them to be there, and 2, Anyone who runs a card show knows that they're going to get more attendance at their card show because people don't like to mail in their cards for grading if they have the opportunity to drop them off. And just simply, allow CGC and tag at shows. I mean, ultimately, punishment has to occur. If we don't hold them accountable, the lawsuit is another thing. And look, that's a lot of time and energy. And I'm just afraid that you guys are going to wait for me or somebody else to start it. And it can still occur, but the immediate effect now is just getting people to not grade with PSA. That will hurt PSA the most. And people watch those numbers constantly. PSA's grading just did go down. Tag and CGC have gone up. If you just all of a sudden had PSA's grading numbers show 0 out of the millions they get per month, that would be a red flag, a huge red flare for vendors across the world. Then, yeah, we probably would have a gigantic PSA slab sale dump, but that would be the nail in the coffin for PSA. Just 1 month of 0 business would level them because they've expanded drastically for their growth. That's how businesses fail. Too big to fail. No, too big to go ahead and fail. You grow, and if you can't keep up with your growth, you die. PSA is way too big. If something were to happen, like they missed massive revenue numbers, they would die. So it is pretty simple. You can still buy the slabs that are already graded. You're not supporting PSA by doing that. You're just supporting the cards themselves and the business between you, the vendors, and the other people who use those as a market transaction, people that aren't vendors, so just the individuals. That doesn't help PSA. That helps PSA in a third order of effect to where, people are still buying these, so I should still get these graded. And then I should still buy them to still sell them. But that's a third order of effect. It's very minimal in comparison to the direct actions. Look, I only had like 1 or 2 cards to send to them at this point out of my thousands. So I can say, I won't send to them. I won't send another card at all to them. But we've all got to do that. We all have to be no longer sending submissions to PSA. And then we also have to ignore this whole, we're sorry, we'll be good, we'll give you a discount. Look, Logan Paul, you guys like Logan Paul. If we can just ignore all that, they'd fall. They'd quit. We would then get CGC and tag, and they would get what they want. And I can't remember if CGC uses AI at all. I think they mentioned using it partially, or at least just, I think people were saying that wrong. They still use computer, but it's not AI, like how tag uses AI. And then basically this would become the new PSA, and this would become the new BGS in a different way. And by that I mean just a harder standard and a higher held up pedestal. And this would just be PSA in terms of, I just want my general rating. In fact, CGC's current prices are what PSA's prices used to be like 8 years ago. 6 years ago, if you include doing bulk. But CGC, you get like really good deals just even without doing bulk. Tag would be the BGS. If you don't know this, you have to pay extra for the dig report. So, and now that tells me some things too. It really seems like Tag is specifically aiming for higher end cards. They want to capture the higher end cards and only the cards that are worth more as a 10. CGC wants to do what PSA originally did and just kind of fire for effect and capture everything. Tag basically just wants to shoot a laser beam directly to their goal of 10s and high-end cards. That's how I see that. That's how I see the only way. This is, guys, this here is the only way to get their attention and to get rid of them. This doesn't do anything for them besides just kind of, a third order of effect. But that's how you get rid of them. Don't grade with them. And then vendors and card show runners. Don't let them be at the show. Call them out. We used to hold people responsible in this country. And look, I guess it is a reach, because still we're just going off raw data for the lenticular deoxys case. And for mine, which is a much smaller case, we don't know if it's the whole company. But one, they never released footage to me. They just said they reviewed the footage for my case and said they found no wrongdoing. But again, you can definitely bypass cameras depending on what you do. Just take the Jeffrey Epstein thing, just for that whole 1 minute when something happened and we don't know what happened in that 1 minute, and it's a maximum high security federal prison, and PSA, supposedly has, better camera systems going on than that. But, for the lenticular deoxys, they should be able to release that footage, because that apparently got damaged during the reholdering process. Now, here's the thing. We would need some legal involvement, only because of today, AI can recreate stuff. So we would need also some legal matter of a third party who can verify that whatever film we're watching is not AI generated. And we should be able to see, oh yeah, no, the person who was reholdering accidentally spilt their coffee on the card, and that's how the card went from a 10 to a 6. Versus, if they're not going to ever show us that footage, they probably swapped the card out. And, yeah. But, yeah, I've submitted 21 cards to CGC. I'm releasing that video. And depending on how that goes, I will send the rest. I was really, 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 really ready to send everything straight to Tag and a couple of cards to CGC. But after looking at the prices and looking at, because originally I thought every card from Tag got that dig report. And that's a whole nother video, but I'll go ahead and add my tidbit here. And that's how I know Tag is purposely aiming for higher end cards, because you're not going to want to pay. I think it's, God, I'm not on the site right now, and I was on it a week ago, but I want to say it was $20 for the grade, which isn't bad, but it was an additional $40 for the dig report, or an additional $20, something like that. Look, I'm just not one to like to pay $40 per graded card. Even if it is a more expensive card, it's still annoying to do. I get it for the more expensive cards, but there's really no reason to be paying $40 for non-expensive cards to be graded. And that dig report was for any value card. So, yeah, that's how I know that they're aiming for more expensive cards. Just people just aren't going to pay for a dig report, the additional money for a card, even if it does 10, won't be worth that much. So Tag's definitely aiming for their niche, and maybe they'll expand and change things. But the reason why that's annoying, and they have their own rights to do so, but the reason why that's annoying is if you pay for just a normal submission, Tag still collects all the data. It's the same exact process for them, whether you're paying for the dig report or not. They're just selling you the available information that they have. Now, they have that right. But my thing on it, that would possibly make it a little bit less frustrating, is let's say, now we're on a new case. I'll try and use this over here. Let's say you send a card to Tag and you only pay the $20 fee and you get the card back and it comes back at Tag 10. Now the card has usually any card's a 10 drastically jumps up in value. So because they did already collect all the information for the dig report, my question is, once we get the card back and we see our grade, do we have the option to pay the additional $20 to have that info given to us? Because at that point, I definitely want it, especially since Tag is about gamification and getting the most perfect of the perfect, 1,000 out of 1,000. But you only get this if you pay for the dig report. So, I don't know. That's a whole separate subject. Don't raid with PSA. I only said that as I was talking about the fact, I was being in the actual literal sense that currently, and I don't know if it'll be forever, and there's a chance that they bump it even more because they go out of business, but yeah. And people who are protecting PSA because they have a big PSA collection, consider me. I've got a big PSA collection. I don't think PSAs will drop in value just because PSA goes out of business. It might actually even be good for you guys, including myself. But it's a risk. And that is my public service announcement on what I was talking about, who I am for those who are new, and just stop submitting to PSA.